Yeah. But you know, there's a lot of countries I know that have like. When we leave here. I guess I'm a little bit signed. I'm a
I knew that, I knew it was up and down.
I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, that's great. I'm doing. Jay. Did you get?
Hey, good morning, everyone. This is great. I'm glad that you guys took some time this morning. We have a great day today. Besides this class here, we'll have our office meeting at 11. And then after that, Kathy Cairo will be teaching a class. So we have a full day of some great material that you'll be involved with. So stick around for the day. But I wanted to, this has been an important topic, and I know you've all been hearing about what's going on in the news. If not, maybe you've read some articles on the NAR lawsuit with the big brokers, and what that means to our business today, and what it could mean to our business and how this case is settled out. So this is of the importance of, we want to be ahead of the curve. We want to talk about your relationship and how, let's not call it commissions, let's say compensation. Let's say broker compensation when we're talking to our clients, not commission, because you know, when you talk commission, you got commission breath. And people don't like it. So let's talk compensation. How is the broker compensated? You're not compensated, the broker's compensated. The broker compensates you through your agreement with the company. So one of the things we're going to be talking about is, you know, when we go on a listing appointment, how many of you take a listing without an exclusive right to sell agreement? Why not? Well, what we're going to be talking about are two different types of agreements. Currently, we have what is called the exclusive right to represent a buyer's agreement. Okay. We have talked about it here in our market center between Dayla and Mick and the team about having just a buyer's agreement, maybe not exclusive. That could happen. That means, you know, I'm going to show you this property, I'll show you this property, you and me are going to work together. So we're going to talk about buyer's agency agreements and the types that there are and the types that we have right now accessible to you. By the way, this exclusive buyer's agency agreement, I got licensed in 1996, and I started using the exclusive buyer's agency agreement in 1998. So this isn't new. It's just that you guys don't use it. Okay, but now we're at a point in our history of how real estate has developed in our careers where we will now need to start addressing our relationship with the buyers on a higher, more professional level. And we're going to go over that today. We're going to address it today. We're not going to go the ABR course. I do encourage you all to take it. It's like a 4-day course, so I'm not going to knock this out in 1 hour. Okay. So the buyer's agency, exclusive or non-exclusive agreement. I get every now and then, I do get them come across my desk for me to sign as the broker that we have agreement, but I don't, you know, I think we do 2,500 transactions a year, half of them are buyers. I don't get 1,200 buyer's agency agreements. But, you know, and no one can predict what the future of real estate is, but you sure can prepare. And that's what we're doing here today. I want to get you guys to think a little bit at a higher level. And how are you preparing? Because what is giving you the edge? If I'm on a listing appointment and you're on a listing appointment, who's going to get it? Me or you? I'm walking in the door thinking I'm taking it from you. Okay? So we want to be prepared. That's because I'm going to be prepared when I walk through that door. I'm going to have the materials to explain why I'm a great buyer's agent and why you want to use me for your services and to protect your interests. So today, this is yesterday's news. So I didn't update it this morning, but this court hearing is on. It started Monday. They have depositions and hearings starting Tuesday. And now here we are Thursday. We're 4 days into this case. We don't know what the solution is going to be and how the court and the jury is going to decide on this case, but it's very important that decision is. If we win, that's great, because we have prepared ourselves. Keller Williams International has prepared us for this day because they've been doing business the right way. We've always been an informative company. We've always been on the premise that when we're with an agent, we want to protect your interests and be fully disclosed on how we do business. Now, this is what the suit's about. And these are the other players in the industry. We have some of the other top brokers, but Gary Keller, who deposed yesterday, and so here's what this is about. One of the allegations: the plaintiffs allege the NAR rules which require listing brokers to offer buyer brokers a commission. Why are we in business, right? It's always been that way, but there's been a challenge. In order to list a property in a realtor's affiliated MLS violates the Sherman Antitrust Act. There's the case right there. Somebody said that you're violating the Sherman Antitrust Act and that you are collaborating across the whole United States on what your commission should be. All commissions are equal, right? No, they've never been equal. The model of the rule applies to all 500 or so MLSs that are owned by realtor associations. I want you to understand that 5 years ago, there were 580 MLSs. Today, there's 500, plus or minus. What's been happening is that these MLSs have been shrinking, they've been merging. So these MLSs started growing, they're getting bigger and bigger as more of the smaller community associations start to merge with the larger ones. The rule underpins the MLS system that virtually all U.S. real estate agents and brokers rely on to do their job. Or the NAR MLS policy handbook, which defines an MLS in part as meaning by which authority participants may make blanket unilateral offers of compensation to other participants. So NAR says that if you're going to be an NAR member and you're a broker, you have to offer a commission. So now the commission, I can pay you $1. I just offered you a commission. Or I can pay you 3%. Or I can pay you $5,000. There's never been, NAR has never said you have to offer this much commission, okay? And so now what we're doing here is why I'm doing this introduction to the buyer's agency agreement is because this is why we're going to need a buyer's agency agreement. If I work with you as a buyer and I tell you, here's my services I'm going to provide you, then this is how my broker will be compensated. This is not my commission. This is how my broker is going to be compensated. And I'm gonna we're gonna do 6% and 3% we're gonna offer to the co-oping agent. And so we're gonna fairly share our broker's commission. And so do you agree? And you sign the contract. So this is one of the value benefits that our MLS in our listing agreement has done to protect our industry is that we have always asked the seller, do you want to compensate a buyer's agent? And by signing that agreement, they've agreed to compensate. It doesn't matter if it was 1%, 2%, or 3%. How many of you have sold a property with 1% commission? I have. It's called cash flow. I don't fight it. And if we're going to if you're happy with this house and I get 1% commission, okay, we're rolling. I'm going to keep this thing moving. I'm going to go on and find another deal. So this is what's been going on. This is our challenge today. And you think, wait a second, I've been doing this, I've been doing it 27 years. Cindy, you've been doing it for 50.
Yes.
Yeah.
We don't want to go back to when Cindy started and the changes that have occurred since then, but a lot had happened. All right. So here are some of the bullet points within the lawsuit that are being discussed. That if you're going to offer, if you're going to make an offer, this is what's coming down the pipeline. Okay. So we don't know how this is going to work, but this is what they're discussing. If you're going to list the property and you're going to offer, and the listing agent doesn't have to accept the contract. If I offer you no commission, I don't have to accept that contract if you put a commission in it. No, it says must make offer or must accept offers of compensation from cooperating brokers, or that if make such offers must be a blanket or universal, unconditional or unilateral. So if I do offer a commission, I can't offer it to you and not to you. Right, I have to be across the board, I gotta give it to fairly, I'm gonna play fair, well, I'm gonna say 3%, 2%, whatever. It doesn't matter, so we're gonna play fair. We're gonna disclose to prospective selling home sellers and buyers and state in a conspicuous language that a broker commissions are not set by law and that are fully negotiable. Now, how many of you negotiated a commission? You said, I'm gonna list your 6%, and the seller goes, no. I'm gonna do, I'll give you 5, not 6. All right. So what that is that we have to be more conspicuous though in our language that our broker commissions are not set by law and that they are negotiable. And I think some of us do say that, you know, the commissions are negotiable, but here's how I do business. You know, go to your doctor's office and they gives you a bill, says, nah, I think we're gonna negotiate that. Not gonna happen. So, so your commissions are negotiable. You have to tell and advise your listing, your sellers. And when you're consulting with your buyer, you have to do the same. So you're gonna have to start disclosing this. Now, keep in mind, this discussion is building your platform for your buyer's presentation, okay? These bullet points are gonna be a part of your buyer's presentation. Agents include at the earliest possible moment, the listing broker offers compensation in each activity. This is shared by the prospective buyer. So if you're, you know, once you're through the IDX and VAL displays, or through any other format. Not everyone uses the IDX and VALs. Commercial people don't play ball like that. But so if we're going to do it, we offer commission in the IDX activity list. So you're gonna that's a disclosure. So now we're being honest with everyone. We're disclosing that a commission is being paid. Includes compensating offers on listings that they publicly display or share with the buyers through IDX. So now, what may happen, may not happen, depending on this case, is that on a listing agreement, you may end up in public display on your public portal. The buyer might say that there's a 3% buyer or 2% buyer broker compensation. All right, thanks. What do we got here? Okay.
Oh, don't do that.
Raise it up so you go down.
I'm sorry.
All right. So if there is a display of zero commission, like this is the next one, it says you have to show the property regardless of the existence of compensation. So you cannot say, oh, wait a second, I'm only going to show you properties that I get paid 3%. If it says 0 and your client says, I want to see it, you got to go show it. Do not prohibit your client, your buyer client, from seeing a property if it says 0 commission. And this is where the buyer's agency agreement comes in now, folks. So we're gonna talk about that in a sec.
One before that,
Pardon me?
the one before that, you meant.
Prohibited from utilizing technology. Okay, so now we can't use technology to do screening. You know, we have pretty good technology today, and I can put in there in my search criteria, it says I only want to see the listings that offer 3%. Can't do that. You can't do that. You gotta pull your listings up and pull them all. 1, 2, 3, 0, whatever it is. It could be 4, 5, 6. How many of you have had 10% listings before? Higher? Okay.
8%.
So commissions are not fixed. What's the next one down? Eliminate any minimum client commission. Eliminate any minimum client commission requirements that are not expressed or implied. Or imply a minimum commission required in, now I use franchise, I use Remax in here because that was from the article, okay? So from the Remax franchise agreements, training materials or other policies. And what this is saying right here, so. Our brokerage may say we must have a minimum commission, okay? Remax, by the way, settled. They settled because they don't want to be a part of whatever the resolution of this lawsuit is. Remax settled for $55 million. So whatever the settlement is, it's triple damages. So 2 of the big brokers have settled. The other broker settled for $83 million. They're bitter.
Who they selling?
Huh?
Who are they selling? Who paid? Who did they pay?
Remax settled with the DOJ, the Department of Justice, on this lawsuit. They said, we're out. We're gonna take our settlement. What do you want us to do? They want you to change your training materials from franchise agreements and other policies. So that's why I use Remax, because Remax agreed to this. I'm not making this up. This is in the articles. So and then we had to have, this is where I come in, right? I said, now it says, Mark is developing training materials consistent with the above. Eliminate any contrary training materials. So this is our training material. So we're ahead of the curve. There's no settlement yet, but I want you guys to be prepared on how to work with buyers. Okay,
Next.
next. Down for you. Down.
Fancy boss.
Excuse me.
I'll let you know that I was checking to see if anybody was.
Oh, here's that. All right, so I want you to realize something. Yes. Elizabeth.
So since Remax has already settled and accepted that, can they start implementing that on their listings already before it's? Before the court case?
Good question.
Late?
Good question, because we have a bunch of Remax here in Columbus, right? Our nationwide firm.
Because they start, what is it, what's
your
your question? Since Remax has already settled, are they able to start implementing this before the court case is settled?
Anybody can start implementing this before any of the court cases are settled, whether they have settled or not settled. That's why we're ahead of the game.
The court case is not settled.
Right.
Remax settled with the Department of Justice, so they don't have to continue paying their attorneys, whatever they're paying their attorneys to battle this battle. Gary Keller said, I'm in for the long run.
Right.
Now, we, you know, I'm not gonna speak for Gary or his legal team. He's got a legal team of like 50 attorneys. I'm not speaking for him, but, you know, Mick is at our leadership in Texas now. He'll get his updates. He'll come back and talk to us a little bit more. We're talking about what's going on currently. How do we prepare if there is a settlement? But this, now I want you to read, this is why it's so important to log into your NAR website once in a while and read what's going on. Okay, it's real important to log into Ohio Realtors website more often than once in a while to read what's going on. But so Ohio Realtors has said, don't pay attention to everything that you read. Okay, because the way real estate is run in Columbus, Ohio is not the same as it's run in Cincinnati. It's not the same as it's run in Kentucky, Indiana. Cleveland's different. So don't pay attention to everything that you read, but understand the implication of of what you're reading. One of the things you have to understand is that Columbus Realtors, Ohio Realtors, and NAR, they have a tri agreement to work together. Okay, so you won't have the option to pick and choose. I don't want to pay my NAR dues. That's not happening. I don't want to pay my Ohio Realtor dues, you know, okay. So if the brokerage is a member of the NAR, OR, and CR, so are you. Okay, so, but this is the power of your dues, is that we've had such a good legal team putting together our contract agreements and all our addendums and everything, that this is protecting us. Because we've had this off, we believe we've had this off at the curb. So, so pay attention, I mean, read what you need to read, but that's a good question, because I said the same thing. Well, what, no, Remax can come in tomorrow and just put zip on all their listings. Well, they can't. They can't right now. In fact, if Remax wants the MLS, they have to be a member of Columbus Realtors, which is a member of Ohio Realtors, which is a member of NAR. So different locations within the company, in the country, may do that. Once Remax isn't doing anything until this case is settled. Okay. If we win, then they'll probably go back to business as usual.
Yeah, Mark, we were talking about this last night in a contract class that I was presenting. No matter what happens, whether the NAR and Gary and all those other guys, they win or we lose, real estate's gonna change. It's because of all of this. And like I said, even if we win, it's changing.
Mhm.
And so that's why us as an office are trying to stay ahead of this, because it's going to change. It's changing now.
Yeah,
And we need to be a step ahead of this.
I agree. Like I said, what's our next slide? So presenting your buyer's agreement. So, like I said, I started using the exclusive right to represent buyer's agreement in 1998. And I don't think they changed the document since then. You know, so they may have updated it a little bit, but so you're the agent and you're working with the buyers. You know, what is your conversation going? This is the importance of being an accredited buyer's representative, or putting together a buyer's listing packet. What is your value? You know, do I win a listing over you because I portray my value better than you do? If you're better than me, but I portray it better than you, and I win. So be prepared. There's nothing wrong with taking a sheet of paper on a listing agreement and reading right off of it. You do that anyway. You know, here's my listing agreement. Look at here. So allow me to explain my value proposition, which will guide you through the home buying process. Explain how you want to be explaining how the broker is, what the broker compensation is. So I think the way our language is used is real important. So don't use commission. Get the commission breath out of here. See, how are you compensated? You know, so you want to position yourself for success. You know, when I teach the purchase contract, you know, knowledge is power. So you want to position yourself for success by educating your clients about the offering process, by conducting a thorough analysis and market to understanding your clients' negotiation positions. So you want to know, you know, what's important to you. How am I going to negotiate for you if I just say, okay, oh, look at this house, let's write a contract, you know? So you have to have consulting here. This is why it's important not to throw somebody in your car and go show the house. And get yourself in the office here. We pay good money for this space, by the way, so use it. For that purpose, okay? When your clients come into this building, they know you'll just step up to a higher level than a real estate office in some little strip center next to a Kroger's. Okay, I'm just saying, I'm not putting anybody out, because I don't know anyone that does that. I'm just saying. So this is the deal. So we have the Columbus Realtors. Now, keep in mind, this agreement is in the loop already, all right? I did this purposely to wake you up. So this is the exclusive right to represent buyer for residential property. And then it goes through, this is a 2.5-page document, and it talks about, you know, the broker shall do this. What are the broker's obligations? What are the client's obligations to the broker? And this is the detail that you need to come into. This is why your listing presentation, your buyer's listing presentation is important. Because you just don't want to read this off, you know, you want to say, here's my success stories. You know, when my coach tells me, and I'm terrible at this, I go sell commercial property and he says, well, what'd you know about it? I go, close, and then cash the check and move on to the next deal. And he goes, well, who'd you tell about it? I go, I didn't tell nobody about it. He goes, what's wrong with you? You know, what are your successes? How many deals have you closed? And let's say you're brand new. You're brand new here. You haven't even done a deal yet. If I sit and talk to Dayla or myself or Megan or Rachel, we have records of every deal that we do. Annually, like I mentioned earlier, we sell about 2,500 homes a year. So you're working with a brokerage that sells over 2,500 homes a year. Who do you want to work with? We have an office of over close to 300 agents. You want to work with an office with close to 10? You know, what is your presentation look like? So these are important discussions that you're going to have. But if you don't have them in writing and prepared to sit down, or if you cannot email it to me, and I can't read what you do, then you know, you could be better than me, but I got a good listing presentation, and they go, well, you know, you didn't send me anything, but Mark sent this crazy package, man. That dude is on fire. You know, so be prepared, because other companies, agents may not be prepared. In fact, I'm expecting them not to be prepared, because that's who we are. Here's the Ohio Realtors Agreement. There are some differences in the language, so you can read them. You can log into Ohio Realtors, and you could type in buyer's agency agreement. It'll pop up. You have a workable PDF, and you have a workable document, an editable one, and then you have a PDF you can download. But so what is your purpose? And so how do I put my purpose in here if I don't know what you want? What's my purpose? You know, so I mean, I'm pretty good at everything, but I can't be good at everything for you. What do you want? What do I need to focus on? You know, I got 3 kids. I got a daughter, 14. I got 2 boys. They're 7 and 9. And, you know, I need a 4-bedroom house. I want each kid to have a bedroom. And so I send you over, hey, I saw this online. Look at this house. I want to go see it. And it's a 2-bedroom house. What are you going to do? Are you going to get in the car and go show it? You know, oh, so you need a 2,500 square foot. This is a 1,600 square foot 3-bedroom house. I go, do you think 3 bedrooms is going to work for you in 1,600 square feet? Maybe we shouldn't look at this, because I know how valuable your time is. Not to mention mine, but your time is valuable too. You get in the car, you take the 3 kids, you show them the house, and the kids are can't even, they're bumping shoulders. You know, that's not happening. So what is your purpose? You can't discover the purpose of your client until you have a discussion with them. And you do this, you have that discussion prior to taking them out. One of the other things that's going to be important too, and I have Bill here with Keller Home Loans, is we want to talk, Bill's going to talk a little bit about money. And the important thing about money is that it's changing daily. You know, what the rate I gave you today may not be tomorrow. And now we're back to having seller paid closing costs. We haven't seen that in, I can't remember. So, I mean, these are the things you have to have a full understanding of the industry. You need to talk to Bill. And so if you get a client qualified today and you don't write a contract for 30 days and you haven't talked to him, You write the contract, all of a sudden the rates have gone up a quarter point, and now you have some closing costs, that deal's dead in the water. It could be dead in the water, not everybody is on the same financial level, but. There's a reason why he was qualified for, say, a $250,000 house. At this amount of money down, there's a reason how you can qualify, right? So you need to have, I want to have, Bill, if you want to come up here in a sec. And talk about what the market is and how it's changed in the daily way. So, come on up, okay. So what we want to do. Our goal is to articulate our value proposition as a buyer's agent by learning what's important to the buyer. What's the needs analysis? Okay, you need to understand that by signing the buyer's agreement, the exclusive right buyer's agreement, is a legal and binding agreement between the broker, Keller Williams Greater Columbus Realty, its agent, because the agent has the fiduciary duty to fulfill its responsibility to the buyer. And the buyer has a fiduciary duty to be responsive to you and is obligated to the buyer to follow through with the purchase of the agreement. Recognize your buyer agent relationship is legally how it's legally formed. You need to understand this is a legal deal, man. This is a business, right? This is a big deal.
Is this gonna be new brothers? Because I've always been told with those exclusive buyers that they don't really hold, legal weight like a different type of contract, and use them mostly for loyalty and a FSBO to ensure that you're getting compensated somehow from the.
But see, that's all explained in the agreement. And by the way, Margaret, when you sign this agreement with me, this is a legal and binding document. This is a legal and binding document, and that if you do go see a FSBO down the street, you go into that new home build, or you go into that open house, and you like that house so much, when you write that contract, you write it through me, because this is legal and binding agreement. We have the right to be compensated for the work that the broker does, and I work for the broker.
But does our current one have that language? Or is it gonna be rewritten?
What's that?
Does our current exclusive right, is this the current one?
No, these are my bullet points.
These are just bullet points.
This is in the agreement. This is in this agreement.
It is, okay,
So when you gotta read it and then understand,
understand, right?
just like how many of you read the purchase agreement? Oh, all raise your hands.
Yeah.
That's the first question I teach when I teach the purchase agreement. Oh, so Arnold's read the purchase agreement?
I know.
Arnold.
Question for you. We sign a buyer agreement with our buyers, they understand we're gonna be compensated for our services. They go off and they buy a FSBO without us. How do we get that 3% from that?
That's so a good question. So now the industry has changed, folks. And this is your learning skill. The industry has changed. Let's say brokers, we no longer have to offer you a commission as a buyer for your buyer. I'm gonna put 0 in the box. So now you sign this agreement that says I got paid 3% or a flat fee. So Arnold's question is, well, how do I collect it if the seller's not paying for it? This is the discussion that you have with your buyer at that time. And this is the industry's challenge. If you're a first-time home buyer or you're a marginal buyer, you squeak into a house with the money you've got, and all of a sudden you need to throw $15,000 on top of that thing so you can compensate me, the deal's dead in the water. So then you go back to the listing agent saying, well, there's thing we can make this thing happen. We'll pay your $500,000 or $400,000 for the house, but the compensation needs to be agreed to. That Keller Williams Greater Columbus will be compensated 3% for bringing the buyer to the table. So do you want to sell the house or do you not want to sell the house? So how does this work? So now our scripts and dialogues will be changing up. You can't, you have to show the house. The guy wants it, right?
Let me go a step deeper with my question to you. The buyer randomly decides to go off and buy a FSBO where there's no listing agreement anywhere. And we've been showing them houses for months and they have a buyer agreement signed with us. They go off and buy something independently. Do we have any weight with that document that says they owe us the money?
If you have the exclusive exclusive right to represent your buyers for the residential property purchase? Yes, you do.
How?
It's
So
called,
like binding contract.
yeah, you call it client, so you know, I think we're just, I've been working for 2.5 months. I'm showing you 79 homes. And you have a bond, you walk down the street and you find this for sale by owner, and it's a 3-bedroom, you want a 4-bedroom. You know, by the way, you know, the broker gets compensated, so here's what we're gonna do. You know, I'm gonna let my broker know, we're gonna call the attorney, and we're gonna request that the broker gets compensated for the sale of that house. So it was a $400,000 house, we're gonna request, and we get fairly compensated at $12,000 because you and I agreed to 3% of the deal. So this is a big thing. So then you sue the person. Then you get an attorney fee of $7,000. Now what do you do? So there's some changes in the industry. I don't have the answer for that all the time. But you can sue for breach of contract. Just like if you and I wrote a contract together and your buyer says, hey, I'm up here the day before closing. Anyone heard that one before? Yeah. Yeah, and so, and then you could actually end up suing that person for breach of contract. But then, how are you gonna do it? So we have to tighten our fortress down, right? And that's through our knowledge. That's through our scripts and dialogues. That's through maybe putting together a mentoring group of how to handle conflict. How do you discuss conflict? And that could be these are good classes for the future, right?
So we have this agreement, and it says the broker's compensated. The commission will work out between you and I at that level.
Yeah.
Is it my responsibility to hire the attorney to go after that buyer for the broker's 3%? Or does the broker take it upon their checkbook?
Well,
To get me compensated? Who's responsible?
Yeah, it could be a mix and match. It could be a mix and match, it could be a couple different variables. And see, these are some of the questions that we as a brokerage. You know, I'll sit with Dale and Nick and say, you know, here's the scenarios, what are we gonna do? You know, how, you know, E&O is $5,000 deductible, you know, so we try and keep our E&O low, so.
Yeah.
If do we hire our E&O carrier because the deductible is low? Versus a $7,000 attorney fee, so you'd only max out at 5. Or maybe we split the difference to get that commission to fight for you guys. Because that's an important question, and we don't have that answer yet. We haven't like solidified how we are going to approach conflict in buyer's agency agreements, breaching.
I personally see this as a way to improve the quality of real estate agents in general. I mean, we are not used car salespeople. And we're great listing agents and we do this so well. And, you know, we do the listing side so well as a professional. I see it forcing the buyer's side, the buyer's agents to become more professional and just overall elevate the profession. Because it's going to force people to have conversations that they avoid at all costs. And that is compensation, your value proposition, and you do owe me 3 apples or 2 apples or 1 apple. You're going to owe me, whether you buy with me or not, you're gonna owe me. So you know, for me, I think it's great because I think we're going to see people that don't need to be in the business out of the business. And for those of us that are still standing, right, Miss Cindy?
No, I mean,
It's gonna elevate our profession.
they anticipate if this goes through, 60% of the realtors will get out of business.
I'm not surprised.
60%.
You.
Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Not the ones that appear.
Right, that's right.
So all you guys relevant, you know, it's just the 4 of us. It's great. I love it. I love it because I'm gonna fight like a dog. 60% of the people get out of the business. I'm in. Because I'm gonna get all your business. Or I'm gonna come over to these 4 over here and say, okay, 60% just left. Let's go power off. Let's go knock this out of the court. So those, here's the thing, the 80-20 rule kicks in, Kimberly. Only 20% of the people do the work. If the market gets tough, Gary Keller said on his most recent video, it says, if you're lead generating in an hour a day, this market's getting so tough, you need to go back to that 3 hours of lead generation to get the same number of deals you did when you did 1 hour.
Right.
It's not gonna be easy. It's gonna get a little bit more challenging.
Mark, can I ask you a question? Please, hi. I'm following you. Okay, all the way. So we go and show a listing. We have a buyer, we show a listing and the commission and MLS is 3-1. Buyer, 8 brokerages, 3-1. Our buyers have signed something that says that we will be paid 3. So now we've got 1 coming and they owe us 2. But that is different than what they've signed because it says that.
Correct. Another fact, another value benefit to having a contract signed.
But if it says.
You agree that I'm gonna pay 3%. You agree, right? And that listing says 1%.
Right.
Because you have a contract that says that I get compensated, in the contract says the seller can pay it, you can pay it, your mother can pay it, I don't care who pays it, but I'm gonna get paid 3%. Now I have the right to put in that contract that in order for this contract to be consummated and to be fully executed, Keller Williams Greater Columbus shall be paid 3% of the agreed upon sale price.
So you put that right in the additional
In the
terms.
purchase contract?
I just get it.
Yeah.
But I think was that what we would do? We put it right in the additional.
Oh, yeah,
terms?
so now you have the right,
But if it's 1.
if I don't have an exclusive, if I don't have a buyer's agreement, you don't have the right to negotiate commissions, what is being offered from the Columbus, if it's on the Columbus Realtors website. You don't have a right, if you have an exclusive right, then you do have the right to negotiate commissions.
This is already happening a little bit. For example, Ohio Brokers Direct, they'll advertise $1 as their compensation. And then you call on the listing, you ask the agent about it, and they say, write it in the contract. But technically, it sounds like we don't have the right to write it in the contract unless we have this agreement.
You're gonna have to go to your buyer on that one, because I want the house real bad.
Well, right, but then we have a problem. The lenders don't like to see it. Is that correct in the contract? So then how do we handle that?
This is a separate document.
This is a quagmire, because what are the appraisers gonna do? All of our lives, the appraisers have been based on market value or the sale value of the property, and it has always had a listing compensation and a buying compensation. It's always had that number just roll right into the blood of the sale. And now, how are the appraisers gonna do this? I don't have no idea. I mean, there's a lot of that's gonna come from this.
Kind of like commercial, right? Negotiating your own commission.
Huh?
It's gonna be like commercial, you negotiate your commission in the deal.
Yeah, well, yeah. When I first got my broker's license, the first residential agent that had a commercial deal shouldn't have done it. Went to the closing table, and I think it was like $500,000-$600,000 deal. And he came back into the office and he said, "They didn't give me my commission." I said, "Well, what are you talking about?" He goes, "Well, this is an off-market deal up the street." And he brought his buyer to the thing, and the broker that had his sign in the yard. So I called him and I said, so I look at the contract, and the contract said nothing about commission. So this has always been on the commercial side. And I said, "Well, you didn't ask for commission." He goes, "Well, what are you talking about? You're supposed to pay." We go, "No, bro, commercial agents don't have to pay you a dime. Your buyer does. It doesn't matter what size of the deal it is either." I talk to apartment people in Cincinnati, they got $17 million apartment complex. You think there's a little bit in there for a buyer's commission? Nope. Nope, there's no money in there for buyer's commission. All right, so the agent's responsibility is to disclose and review the buyer's obligation. This is the whole thing. This discussion is about the buyer's obligation
Just
to
a quick
you.
question, if it's stated in the MLS that it's 3%, do we need to still write it in the, okay?
If the MLS says 2% and you agree, no need to. If it says 1% and you agree, You wanna make the deal happen, you wanna get it closed, this client is, you know, you're gonna sell an $800,000 house, we'll buy $1 million house. I'm gonna get a 1% on $1 million house, I just got 3% on the $800,000 house. Now, you know, you might change your mind a little bit. But it sounds to me you have a real good client. It's a business decision, I can't tell you what to do. But it's a business decision, you can consult with me at that particular point, what should I do? And we can have a conversation.
But if I wrote in this agreement that my compensation is 3%. And I explained it to my buyer that whatever the seller is gonna pay, you're gonna be responsible for the rest, that's the power of it.
That's correct. Okay. I wanna get moving, but go ahead, Kimberly.
Just real quick, this is where it's gonna be really important that you're with, especially with first or second time home buyers, that you're in contact with the lender and the buyer to understand a little bit more with their financial situation, because you may need to negotiate now on that contract. Mark mentioned closing costs, so they're gonna pay 2% closing costs for the purchase. Because the 2% now that they were going to use for the contract now is gonna be your compensation. And so I see where it's gonna be that we just can't put our heads in the sand and just write a contract and go to closing. It's gonna cause us to step up to the plate and, you know, be more involved and know what's going on and how you're gonna work on getting that commission
You know what?
compensation.
We get paid well. We get paid well. Learn your trade. Learn who you are. Learn how to present yourself at a high level. The reason why the top producers in the industry get paid very, very well is because they know who they are and they present themselves in a professional manner. They don't fool around. You know, these teams that have 20, 30 agents on them, it's all, you know, here's the thing, if I got 38 agents on a team, you better have some models to follow. And you better present yourself, every one of those 30 agents better present themselves according to the team's requirements. You're professionals, learn your trade, and then go make a lot of money. I want to bring up Bill, and I want Bill to talk about how the mortgage industry has changed and why it's important to have this conversation. Well, if you have a buyer, you say, let me introduce you to Bill for a mortgage, and we get that pre-qualification deal put together, we need to understand what that mortgage looks like to the buyer today. Because as I mentioned earlier, in 30 days before that mortgage, before you lock down that mortgage, our whole world can change in 30 days. Okay, there's a lot of things going on, and money is part of that. So Bill, come on up and just talk about the relationship of you and the buyer and you and the agent, and how money changes and what you need. How do I keep in touch with Bill? So if I write that deal, you know, I need to know what the closing costs are if we're marginal. I need to know how to write that offer so I can have those closing costs covered. So Bill, I don't want to be
First, let me just say that I want to commend all of you for being in this. This shows, you know, that you guys are the top professionals in your business, right? You're seeking the knowledge, you're being proactive for the changes. And it also just is another kind of testimonial to Keller Williams be ahead of the curve, because I speak to agents at other brokerages right now, and some of them don't even know there's a lawsuit. Like, how can that happen? Like, so they're going to wait and see what happens and then try to scramble to react. So it's great you guys are getting ahead. I think the reason Mark had me up is Monday in a leadership meeting, we were just talking. I've been doing this 29 years. Yeah, I started when I was 3, right? No, just kidding. But in the last 2 or 3 weeks, I've seen some things that I hadn't seen in probably 15 or 20 years, right? We are at a point right now where rates are almost to the level that they were back in 2003, 2004. We had an agent that actually works in this brokerage in one of the different business centers. 10 days ago, lost a deal, a buyer, because the lender that they had worked with pre-approved a buyer like 6 to 8 weeks ago. Well, in the last 6 weeks, we've seen interest rates go up nearly 0.75%. So they wrote the contract. the contract was forwarded to the lender finally reaches back out to the buyer, updates the interest rate and payment, and the buyer said, I can't afford that. That's way more than we talked about, and terminated the contract, right? So I don't want to disparage any loan officers, but a lot of loan officers talk to you at pre-approval, right? Like within 24 hours, they give you great service. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Smith are pre-approved for $375,000. They don't need any help with sell or public closing costs. You know, their down payments from the source, everything looks good. And then you guys go separate ways and they go separate ways from your buyer, okay? This is a time, and it's going to get worse. It's gonna get better, but there's gonna be, we're still seeing increasing rates. 16 out of the last 17 days, rates have gotten worse. Maybe not enough to move the needle. Some days move the needle pretty substantially. Today, we're down about 34 basis points again. So I think this will be 17 out of 18 days, right? But this is if your lender does not have standards, right? So like, for example, one of my standards is on a weekly basis, when I do a pre-approval, I am going to at least, depending on the buyer's means of communication, send them a text just to say, have you seen any properties? Do you need anything updated? Yesterday, I spent all afternoon calling pre-approved buyers to let them know that rates had moved. And we needed to talk to make sure, based on if they had to lock today, what their payment looked like, what their rate was going to be, and did they still qualify, right? Because right now, unfortunately, guys, with rates being up, a lot of buyers are qualifying on their very high end, right? 45% debt to income ratio at 7.5, the next day at 7.75, and they're at 48%, and they don't have an approval anymore, right? So if you guys are not receiving at least bi-weekly from me, it just depends on the news. It could be every week, could be every other week, an email that has like MBS Highway on there. If you're not getting that, my cell phone number is, and I'll say this slowly, 740-504-6745. Text me and I'll make sure you're on the list. I think I had most of the roster, but if any of you have joined new, right? That's going to give you information on what's coming up. Okay, is like today, the reason interest rates are going a little bit south again, or a little sour again, is the unemployment claims came in lower than expected. That should be good, right? No, what the Federal Reserve is trying to do is bring down inflation and take up unemployment, because that slows down spending, right? So the fact that there's less people filing for new unemployment claims today than what we expected is a sign that the economy is still strong, right? I know we've all seen differences in our gas prices, a dozen days and everything else, but it's going the wrong way. So rates change, in case you don't know, rates can change multiple times in a day, right? I can quote you a rate at 9 or well, probably about 10 when they're published, because the market opens at 9:30. And by 2 o'clock, we could have an improvement or a worsening, right? I pay for a service that actually sends me texts throughout the day showing me which way the rates are going, so I can intelligently talk to your clients, right? Right now, nobody should float. If you go into contract right now and your buyer is fine with the payment, they should be locking their rate. There is a 90% chance that things get worse, a 10% chance that they can improve. Those are terrible odds. I mean, I don't know if anybody's a gambler, but you wouldn't take a 1 in 9 chance and put the largest investment that you're gonna have for the largest obligation at risk like that. So, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, wouldn't this not be a great conversation to have with your buyer? Understanding what mortgages do, and this is how you and I are gonna build a good relationship of working together. And now I'm bringing value. And then, so I'm gonna tell you about what I know about the mortgage rate, and I'm gonna introduce you to that. And then Bill's gonna, okay, we got a 3-way circus going here. Bill, the buyer, and me, okay, so I need to know, as I'm looking for a home, what that looks like, and if the rates do go up, you know, maybe, you know, this is a conversation also to have with the listing agent. You want to understand the rates went up a quarter point, a half a point, and you just lost your buying power by, you know, $30,000. You know, this is a good conversation to have. When you understand how to protect your buyer's buying position, you could also have the power to talk to the listing agent about the list price.
and one other thing I just want to mention is, a lot of. Like I said, unfortunately or fortunately, I've been doing this 29 years. So some of the tools that I haven't used in 15 or 20 years, I've had to dust off in the last couple of weeks. And I'll give you an example. And this is where your lender's knowledge, I mean, people fall into habits and patterns. You guys probably do in your own personal life, right? So lenders are gonna probably be, they look at a credit score and a debt to income ratio, and they immediately gravitate towards one particular way to structure a loan. Okay, your buyers should be getting at least 2 to 3 options. Okay, they're looking at probably see more than one house. They should know a couple different financing options. But I just had a conversation with a agent at Worthington Capital Partners. Her best friend's daughter and a young couple, first time home buyers, are trying to buy. They need to get to $350,000. Their previous, the lender they spoke to originally said their cap was 3. So she called and just said, would you talk to them and see if there's anything you can do? And this is where the partnership, instead of just being a vendor, comes in. So we had a conversation and I was like, well, what kind of homes are they looking at? Are they looking at homes that just came on the market 3 hours ago? What are we doing? She was like, well, you tell me what we need to do. And I said, okay, well, right now, the reason they're capped at 300 is they're only putting 3% down. And because of their credit score, their PMI is going to be $258 a month. I said, how about this? Do you think there is a chance that you could write, and they were looking at a $355,000 house. I said, do you think that house would appraise for 3% over what the asking price is? And she said, absolutely. I know that neighborhood. I've been selling homes in that neighborhood for 20 years. I said, then let's write a contract with the seller paying 2.75% towards the buyer's mortgage insurance. Why would that help? Anybody have an idea? Because 99% of lenders put people in what they call monthly paid, borrower monthly paid. That's the 258. The seller can come in and pay 2.75% for a single premium policy. That 258 goes away from their monthly payment. That allows them to go up to $375,000 now. So we just increased somebody's buying power, $75,000, and the commission. Not that no broker compensation. Sorry, I gotta say with the plan, right? Sorry.
You already feel guilty.
Yeah. So, those are the kind of conversations you need to have. 2-1 buy downs. We haven't talked about it since the lot, right? I have a calculator, right? That if you need it, again, text me, I'll email it to you, send me your email address. You basically put in the purchase price, I'll tell you what the rate is today, and you can look at a 1-1 buy down, a 2-1 buy down, a 3-1 buy down. That's gonna help buyers qualify.
Your relationship with Bill is critical. So understanding how just the buy downs and get rid of PMI, you know about PMI? I mean, we haven't talked about that in a long time either. So all these things are important.
And let me just say the last thing. Mark mentioned this earlier, and I don't know how many of you do this. I know some because I see some faces in here. The buyer's consultation, bringing somebody in before you show them property. Okay, it's just like the difference on the lending side. Somebody sends out a mobile application, never really has an in-depth conversation with customer about goals, needs, things like that. If you spend an hour, and I know Rima does this quite often, and I've sat in with those, right? And I'd be more than glad to with you guys as well. But spend an hour with your buyers, right? You're going to ask them to sign an agreement to pay you 3%. If you're just at the house showing them the first one and throw that out there, chances are they're backing away, right? But if you spend an hour, and I'll go into, I went into a consultation with Rima where she's literally pulling up homes and I'm on my laptop talking to the buyer about, okay, this is what this deal would look like. Here's your monthly payment based on what your assets are. This is what you need to ask the seller to help. But when they leave there, they feel that they have professionals on their team, right? The value to get your 3% commit broker compensation has just increased. So, Mark, is there anything else you want me to touch on?
No, I mean, I think it's all about relationships. I mean, you need this conversation, your home inspector, you need it with anyone who touches the house on the buy side, you need this conversation with them. How much does a home inspection cost today? You know, if I got all this stuff, this is all about relationship building. And this is about becoming more and more knowledgeable about the products we're selling, and you need money to buy houses. The first thing you need to do is figure money out. figure the money out. So it's 11 o'clock. 11:02. So 10 to 11 was my timeline. So I want to thank everyone for sticking here. I just been pulled out of the center piece here. I think Dana's going to take it over. Just stay in your seats. We do have our office meeting next. And remember, Kathy Cairo is teaching a class after the office meeting. Thanks, everyone. This has been a great turnout. This is recorded. We go, if you need, you want to go back over this and record it.